Hey there everybody, Eric from Art of Limitless coming at you today with another knife video. Now today's video is on a knife whose design is based on the Old Navy survival knives from the time of World War II. This particular knife was designed by Jesper Voxness and is kind of a contemporary look at a classic design. Now this Boker Join the Navy is part of the classic tree brand line of Boker knives. So it is on the premium line. This is a very nice high quality knife, but at the same time it does come with quite a hefty price tag. So this knife may not be for everybody, or if you do what I do, you just kind of be very patient and you wait to find a deal and finally get your hands on one. I can tell you, I've wanted this knife for quite a long time now. And after watching for months and months and months, I finally did find one that I was able to go after, and I did get my hands on one. So at this time, looking at the other reviews on YouTube, I do not see too many. There's basically just some videos out there that show the knife and show what it looks like, but nothing with any sort of comprehensive review. So I'm going to do my best here to show you the details and get into it. Here we go. So first and foremost, this knife is made in Solingen, Germany. It is manufactured out of N690 steel. A lot of times you'll see this steel being referred to as N690CO. Boker uses the name convention N690BO. It's basically the same exact steel, it's just Boker's take on that particular knife steel. Now the Boker Join the Navy has approximately a 4 1/4 inch cutting edge. It's a nice sized blade. It's comfortable, reasonably compact, not oversized. So it's a good quality field knife, good for camp tasks, good for general chores. I've used it for many different things, and at this point I found that it performs quite well. I really do enjoy these handles. They're made of a green micarta and have a beautiful yellow liner, so there's good color contrast and it looks quite nice. The blade has a nice satin finish. It has a little bit of a stonewash look to it. It's not quite as pronounced a stonewash look as certain other brands, certain other blades that even Boker puts out, but it is a really nice quality finish, very even, and that satin finish looks really nice up against those dark micarta handle scales. Like some of the other knives that Jesper Voxness designs, he uses large oversized hollow pins. It's quite nice, looks really neat, gives you a couple of interesting lashing points if you thought you'd need it, and it's also reinforced with some solid pins right in the middle of the palm swell. This knife has a flat grind and an unsharpened swedge, giving the blade a good pronounced strong tip. A feature that I could take or leave with this knife is the jimping. It does have some nicely rounded jimping. It is not overly aggressive. I don't find it bothers my hand in any means because it's nice and round. I think in this particular knife, this case, it is sort of an aesthetic that I think is pleasing to the overall shape and design of the knife. And I think in this case, where it's really rounded out and it's not overly aggressive, it doesn't bother me one bit. This has a wonderfully ergonomic handle. Has some wonderful palm swells so that it fills out your hand quite nicely. I have a large size hand, and these handle scales are the optimum size and fits my hand perfectly. I think this blade would be pretty well suited for most hands. Even in a slightly smaller hand, it would just fill it out really that much nicer. I think because of the palm swell and the way the ergonomics fit my hand, it makes it one of the more comfortable knives I've held. I can see myself doing a lot of work with this for a long period of time and really not having too much in the way of fatigue just because that knife fits quite nicely. Now the back end of the handle does have an exposed pommel, capable of being used for crushing or breaking different things. I personally don't think I will be doing that too much unless I absolutely have to, just because the last thing I want to do is damage this knife in any sort of way, but it is there if you want it. And you see those liners racing right down the back side of that spine up against the tang of the knife, and those nice green micarta handle scales. It's a beautiful aesthetic, excellent fit and finish, and just a really unique look. Now, one of the things that I find I do quite a bit with this knife, because of the shape and the size, is I like to use it for cooking and eating tasks. I have used this on a number of occasions for cooking and for preparing my food, and then also once I actually get into eating my meal, I find that I use it as well. It's a good, comfortable blade. It has a nice shape that is actually conducive to cooking tasks, and so I find that a lot of times if I want to get a little more use out of this blade, I do tend to go to it for some of those cooking tasks. Now, this knife did come quite sharp right off the get-go. I believe that this knife that I purchased was used, but if that's the case, I mean, it was barely used. This is the factory edge. I find that this steel has a little less than optimum in the way of actual edge retention. It hasn't been detrimental to its overall use, but I have found that it is a little bit on the soft side. Like I said, this edge is a little bit softer than maybe I would like. It tends to kind of dull out on me reasonably quick, but at the same time, it is also very easy to sharpen. So even if I am using this for cooking tasks, I find I need to touch up this edge after I'm done using it. Now, this knife may come with possibly one of the worst leather sheaths I've seen. It's unfortunate because for the price you pay for this blade, it comes with a really horrendous leather sheath. I mean, there is a couple of good points here, which is one, this knife can go in either direction, so it is basically ambidextrous. It does have some snaps and a little Velcro, so you could potentially put it on your belt without removing the belt altogether. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much all this thing does, is protect your knife from getting dinged and dented. So unfortunately for me, this is definitely a sheath that needs to get replaced. The outer pocket and pouch here is quite cheap, real thin, flimsy material. It's basically not even, I mean, look at how that thing's constructed. It's not even sewn in. It's just a real cheap and chintzy, flimsy little pocket here on the outside. I mean, could I put something in there? Yeah, sure, but it's definitely not quality. Now, even furthermore, when getting into the actual construction, you can see that this is glued together here, and it's already starting to pull apart on me. So this thing is not going to survive, it's not going to last, and it's definitely low quality in terms of the sheath. So I actually think that, to be honest with you, I'd almost even rather have this come with one of those crappy nylon ballistic sheaths than this real chintzy, cheap leather one. And I do know that even for the price that you're paying for this, you're gonna have to spend some more money on another sheath as well. Now, I'm not gonna go into a whole ton of use here, but I did want to show the blade in use at least a little bit. I mean, in terms of the comfort and the ability to start getting to work here and the overall edge geometry, it does feel pretty nice. You know, granted, right here all I'm doing is stripping some bark, but sometimes these little tests are pretty nice in terms of, you know, the way a knife feels in your hand and the way you're going to be using it and the type of work you're going to want to do. My ability just to find that grind right off the get-go and just slide the knife right where I want and get the appropriate bite and depth on my cuts is pretty sweet. So, you know, there's little telltale signs in my mind when you first put a blade in your hands, whether or not it's going to be comfortable and you're going to enjoy using it and how it's going to feel. And at least the good thing I can tell you is right off the get-go with this, it definitely feels nice and I can find that grind. And I think this is going to be a knife that I can put some real good long use with, and it'll be comfortable the entire time. Now, if I just want to slice a little bit deeper, just applying a little bit more pressure here and getting down into some of that wood. The nice thing for me is with this flat grind, I'm very comfortable in my ability to find the edge and get the appropriate bite to get the depth of a cut that I want. Sometimes I find different grinds go too deep, others too shallow. And for me, a flat grind is just right. It's that sweet spot where I'm able to really find the edge, get the control that I want, and just the comfort to get a depth on the bite of the wood right where I need it. Just taking a look at some of these nice shavings, just nice tight curls, came off with ease. Real easy to find the grind and just get to work. So in terms of just the general carving, it is pretty nice. So just giving you my impressions here, even after doing a little bit of work, that jimping is just a tiny bit on the rough side. I mean, I can feel it on my thumb, and it is just a tiny bit of a hot spot. I think that's something that, you know, just with a little more use, I may just get used to it. And especially if I was using this for a long time, it might start to bother me. But I don't tend to do a ton of work for big, long, extended periods of time. Generally, I'll do a lot of shorter tasks. So, you know, I just have to use this more and really see if that's something that eventually bothered me. But for right now, it's just worth noting, just a little bit of a hot spot. And finally, just to finish up, some harder carving tasks, full grip on the knife, and my ability to get down and hog through some of this wood. I mean, it's definitely comfortable. It's doing a good quality job. Even if I go somewhat light and just try to shave off the top layer of the wood as I go and not bite too deep, it's doing a nice job. It feels comfortable, feels good in my hand, and at this point, that's really where that palm swell is coming into play to give you a good quality grip on the knife. This knife is generally comfortable for stabbing tasks. It has a little bit of a finger guard up next to the blade, so it does protect your pinky if you're using it in this grip. I find that a lot of times I'll put my thumb up over the top of the knife to give me a little bit of extra security, and that actual little sort of exposed hammer pommel there does kind of hurt. So in reality, I'd probably grip the knife back around this way, use the palm swell to give me the bulk of my purchase, and rely a little bit on that finger guard to protect me. But at the same time, I find as though it does have a good quality purchase. I'm not afraid of slipping, and even with these little light stabbing tasks, I am getting some decent blade penetration into this log. Now I'm just going to do some real light batoning here and get down through some of this wood. This knife can certainly take it, but it is not terribly wide, so you don't have a huge span to work with, but it's certainly enough to get you down and process some smaller wood. Now just to point out that this N690 steel is a stainless steel, so it is quite good in wet environments. This spine is not sharpened, so I don't think it would do you any good to try to spark a ferro rod. So alright guys, there you have it. A real quick look at the Boker Join the Navy, designed by Jesper Voxness. You know, for me, this is actually a pretty nice little knife. I told you before I was trying to get my hands on this for a long time, and I finally did. So like I said, this knife is quite pricey for what you're getting, but at the same time, it has nice features, excellent fit and finish, and is a pretty quality blade. Obviously, the sheath is lacking quite a bit, so you would likely have to invest even more money into this thing to really make it worth your while. I think if you're able to get your hands on this for the right price, it's definitely worth it, but there are a lot of other options that may be better for you. So alright guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.